Coming up in this week's show, we speak to Patrick Loker about the PricewaterhouseCoopers gambling outlook for 2017 to 2021. We get clarification from Chief Stipendiary Steward Sean Parker regarding the amendment to a rule pertaining to unraced horses and those out of racing for 120 days or more. Australian champion jockey Hugh Bowman is crowned champion of the world. But first, we return to the South African Jockey Academy to profile those apprentices race riding outside the province of KZN. There are currently 97 jockeys actively race riding and registered with the National Horse Racing Authority. The majority of them were trained at the South African Jockey Academy, the institution largely responsible for supplying the industry with sufficient numbers each year. Graham, how do you decide on numbers each year?
What I've established working over the last number of years is that our attrition rate is around somewhere between 5 to 8 jockeys on an annual basis. So that's what we as the South African Jockey Academy have to put back or make available for the system on an annual basis. Again, looking at the fallout from our intake, we roughly had initially, when I started, there was about a 50% fallout rate. Because of our selection processes that we've refined over the last number of years, we've managed to reduce that in some instances. But as you know, unfortunately, unlike other sports where you can actually test them, if one looks at rugby or soccer or cricket, you can see what their bowling action is like, or you can see what their rugby skill is like. We can meet a whole lot of other criteria, but the one thing we're not able to measure at this stage when we're selecting is their ability to ride a horse and to know whether they're going to have that balance and the things that a jockey will need.
All apprentices have to meet specific age, weight and height requirements prior to being accepted into the academy.
Our entrance requirements are obviously based on physical criteria, and then of course there's an academic ability, but the selection process starts generally around April in the year, where the marketing person Leonard Strong goes out, and invariably what he does is he goes to a race course at a particular race meeting, and what he will do will be to measure them, weigh them and run them through a fitness test. And then again we have a second round in August where those same kids come back again and we check again how they have grown and weight and their fitness levels again. And then in October we have our final round. They will go through the fitness tests again, we'll measure them, we'll weigh them, and we will do the psychometric testing. So it's quite a comprehensive selection process that the kids will go through.
In November, we profiled the 10 apprentices based here at Summerveld, but there are a further 8 based either at the Gauteng Jockey Academy or at satellite campuses in Port Elizabeth and Cape Town.
Outside, White Rose is trying hard to cut back a deficit. Back towards their inside, Colour Your Dreams. Glamorous Life still in front, she's hanging tough. Janice's Secret is flying home up the outside. Janice's Secret coming strongly, it's desperately close. Janice's Secret was flying home at Glamorous Life, very close.
Akshay Baloo, very nice rider. He's in his last year, in his 5th year as an apprentice, hails from Mauritius. Very good lightweight, he claims 2.5, he's ridden approximately 43 winners. He will come out his time sort of at the beginning of January, and I'm sure he'll go on to become a very good jockey.
Apollo Star, the first one to now start to put on the pressure. Script Writer races just in behind those. Yeah, it's Apollo Star has come forward to pick it up. Down towards the inside, Rocketeer is still right there. Apollo Star and Rocketeer, these two fighting it out. It's Apollo Star with the advantage, and Apollo Star goes on to win it from Rocketeer.
Calvin Gorbal just moved to Cape Town recently from Joburg. He's ridden probably just over 60 winners. He doesn't claim anymore because he's ridden his 60 winners. Very nice rider. His weight seems to have got the better of him at the moment. But if he gets it under control, I'm sure he'll be a very good rider one day.
Outside to the wire. Have to go Dancer Jig. Now being tackled by William the Brave, who puts his head in front and he kicks for home. Up the outside we've got Pacific Chestnut, who's on the chase. William the Brave down the inside has taken the lead. Pacific Chestnut is starting to reel him in the middle. William the Brave, Pacific Chestnut lunging up the outside to the wire.
Louis Burke, very quiet, nice kid. He's only ridden 6 winners. He's in his 3rd year. He still claims 4, but he's a very strong claim 4, a very strong rider, and he's just of late come to hand. He's really starting to come into his own now. He has taken a bit of time, but I think he's going to kick on now, and because he claims 4, I think he'll go through his claim 4 winners very quickly now.
To his credit, is continuing to plug away. He's got a 2-length lead. Discover is all out in 2nd, and he's not really catching into the final 100. Michael back in 3rd, still Reminiscence. Calvin Habib has ridden a perler. Reminiscence from start to finish, he played them on the break.
Calvin Habib, also a very nice kid, hails from a racing family, and he's currently riding in Bahrain. He's got a contract to ride in Bahrain, where he's already had 4 winners. He has ridden over his 60 winners. He's only doing 3 years as an apprentice. He's got a special agreement with the academy, so he will come out of his time at the end of this year, and I think he's riding out his apprenticeship in Bahrain. They've given him the opportunity to go over there to finish, and that was a contract that we had with him.
Star got 3 lengths to go. Korean Street Gaze 250 meters out. Big Bang Theory comes right back at Kirk Connellas, who has the goal. French Legend is down the inside. Then comes Mohalela. It's Kirk Connellas pulling out all the stops here from Big Bang
Mpumi Mjorka looks like a young apprentice on the up as well. Tell me about him.
He's definitely on the up. You summed it up correctly, Michelle. He's had quite a few winners of late. They were struggling a little bit in Joburg to get rides, and he's kicked on again now, and he's definitely coming into his own. He's ridden over 40 winners. He still claims 2.5, and he's a very strong 2.5. He can ride bottom weight, and he'll go on to be a very good apprentice and a good jockey.
He won for you overseas, didn't he?
He did, yes. He won in France for us, and it's a great achievement for anybody to just go overseas, and to have a winner over there is a great achievement, and it's good for his record too.
Seattle's on a forward move. Silver Thursday misses out to the outside. Folk Dancers moving up courageously as they come to the 300-meter marker. Down the inside, Varsity Girl tries to fight on. Folk Dancers got a race on her hands over the last 100. Varsity Girl...
Yeah, what can you say about Lyle? He's an absolute superstar. Also hails from a racing family. And I mean, you can't ask for more than from him. You know, he's an absolute gentleman. He does everything the right way. He's probably will break Gavin Larina's record of riding the most winners as an apprentice. He's just represented us for South Africa in the South African team. To do that as an apprentice, I mean, what more can you say? He's an absolute gentleman of the game, and he'll just go from strength to strength. He's ridden over 250 winners already. He's leading the South African log, not just the Durban or Joburg, it's the South African jockey log. As an apprentice, I mean, that's just outstanding.
Inside, in comes Captain of March. They come to the closing stages. It's Arctic Blast, but Lord Windermere is looking to close him down now. Lord Windermere and Captain of March on the outside is closing in rapidly, and Captain of March, Lord Windermere, Captain of March, got it there from Lord...
Tajesh Jaglal, very different to his brother, very quiet, unassuming kid. He's ridden 2 winners in Port Elizabeth. He has battled a little bit, but he was a little bit weak. And we sent him down there to give him experience. You know, he was battling to fight amongst the apprentices, yeah. So we sent him down to a quieter centre where he's managed to pick up quite a few rides. He is the only apprentice down there at the moment, so I'm sure he's going to pick up more rides now, and he can only go from strength to strength.
Odaiba's still got plenty running left in it and starting to challenge now as they come to the closing stages. Yeah, it's anybody's call. Stavros Christoph, but now Odaiba and Lumia Verter's putting on pressure. Run for your life, but it's all over. Yeah, it's going to be Odaiba to win it comfortably. Yeah.
Yeah, Liam was lucky enough to pick up a contract to ride in Dubai for the season, which is five months long. He's only been there for about a month, so he hasn't had a winner yet, but he's had probably about 8 or 9 rides. So he's still getting to know the tracks, I think, and that he's riding for a very nice stable, and he has got first choice. So no doubt he'll have a winner soon, I'm sure.
Apprenticeships run for 5 years prior to the young riders becoming fully fledged jockeys.
The first milestone is obviously when they sign their race riding papers, and we've started a little tradition here. When an apprentice is ready to sign his race riding papers, he has to sign them in front of the other apprentices at assembly on a Friday morning, because they are going to hold him accountable, and he needs to know that he's in a brotherhood. For an apprentice, obviously his very first race ride, it has to be a milestone. Initially, as they start off, they claim in 4 kilograms. Once they've ridden 20 winners, they drop that down to a 2.5 kilogram claim. Once they've ridden a further 20 winners, that drops down to a 1.5 kilogram claim. And then, of course, once they've ridden their 60th winner, they then no longer claim. And then all they have to do is their time. The average apprentice will get to his 60 within his 5th year.
We're very proud of our students that have gone through the academy. At the beginning of last month, out of the top 10 in the country, 7 of the top 10 were guys that have just graduated in the last 5 years. So I think that's saying something.
In the week following the first barrier trial at Greyville, the National Horse Racing Authority amended a rule affecting all first-timers and those returning to racing after a break. Rule 10.5.7 covers the prerequisite of all unraced horses and those which have not raced for a period of 120 days or more to satisfy the stipendiary board that they are fit to race. Rule 4.2.7 gives the stipendiary board the authority to decide on the fitness of a horse to run in a race. Sean, what has the amendment been to the rule?
The rule remains exactly the same, barring the 90 days has become 120 days. That's the only change to the rule as it stands, and it's been there for quite a while.
Practically, how does the stipendiary board decide on whether a horse is fit to race?
With regards to the unraced horses, as you know, all horses have to go through the starting stalls and be certified through the stalls before they can race. They need a certificate there. And whilst we monitor their behaviour in the stalls in terms of that, they obviously then jump and gallop from the stalls, and that's our opportunity to then see them. If they do anything quirky, having left the gates, we obviously then have the right to not certify them. They have to come back and be repassed. With regards to the other runners that require the 120-day horses, there's a very good relationship between our National Horse Racing Authority veterinary surgeon and the private veterinary surgeons. In terms of where a horse has been off for a medical reason, etc., there will be a discussion between the two, and then the vets will then decide which horses need to be seen by us. Bearing in mind our veterinary surgeons are also licensed as stipendiary stewards, and that's generally their forte, where they would look into that matter for us. We also have history of all the horses that run in races. Going back from the first time we've seen them at the starting stalls, every race we have a full history, and those horses we know to be problematic horses from a soundness point of view. We then know that those are the type of horses we'd like to see coming back from 120 days. If a horse has been off purely just from a break, or he's had a very long campaign in the season, the trainer's rested him out in the farm and brought him back in, those horses might not be as critical to see as a horse with a wellness or a soundness issue.
By the time this show airs, we would have seen 5 barrier trials take place here at Greyville, with Fridays having boasted a full field of 8. From a control and management perspective, how are they going?
Very, very well. I mean, everybody's participated in it. They've basically gone by the rules, they've gone by the instruction, how we wanted them to be done. I think we'll start seeing going forward now more and more horses coming into it as they become a prerequisite in terms of the local conditions. So they've been taken well, and the guys who are participating in them have basically done what needed to be done. We're happy with them.
International auditors PricewaterhouseCoopers recently published their gambling outlook for 2017 to 2021. Although the South African gambling industry overall continued to grow from a revenue perspective in 2016, the growth rate was significantly lower than increases enjoyed during the past couple of years. 2015, for instance, saw the industry post a healthy increase of 11.2%, but just 12 months later, in 2016, it dropped by a significant 7.3% to just 3.9%. For the first time in 20 years, casino gross gambling revenues, or GGR, declined. indicating the tough economic conditions and the impact of illegal gambling.
The most important thing is that the gambling industry is definitely affected by the state of the economy. The economy is not strong, we're not growing, and I think that's reflected by the fact that this is the lowest growth that industry has had.
Yes.
The casinos for the first time are actually showing negative growth. I do think that's a massive factor, and even reading that the Suncoast upgrade has been cut back from a spend of 1.9 billion rand to about 1.3 billion rand. There's no question that we are all hurting, and that also the other thing that is to come is that I think the proliferation of the bingo operations is still going to affect both horse racing as well as casinos even more going forward.
There was a 36.6% increase in bingo, which resulted in it being the fastest growing category in terms of gross gambling revenue, or GGR, in 2016. There was also a 14.1% increase in LPM GGR to 2.7 billion rand in 2016. This largely due to the continued introduction of new LPM sites. What is also interesting is that the GGR for betting, which consists of fixed odds bookmaking on sporting events, pari-mutuel wagering on horse racing, and taking bets on the outcome of lotteries, also posted a growth. In 2016, it rose by 14%, raising its share of total GGR to 19% from 17% in 2015. At face value, a 2% increase appears positive amid difficult operating conditions, but as Patrick explained, it needs to be seen in context. Horse racing is not the only revenue stream included under the betting umbrella.
The skewing is the fact that sports betting is within the betting environment is the fastest growing component of betting. Certainly totalizator wagering decreased. The betting on the outcome of lotteries is also very popular. And then another factor that does skew those figures is that in every province except for the Eastern Cape, they separate the figures between horse racing and sports betting. Now, sports betting does include lucky numbers, or that's what it's called, lucky numbers as well. But in the Eastern Cape, they are together. So if sports betting grows significantly in the Eastern Cape, which it should because it has in every other province, that would indicate that horse racing and sports betting has grown, but horse racing may in fact have gone backwards or has declined, whereas the sports betting component has actually shown growth. So you do need to take those into context, but from a perspective of the totalizator nationally, we actually declined by 6%. So it affected us in KZN more. We had a 9% reduction in turnover.
Interestingly, PricewaterhouseCoopers predict an 8.1% compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, in gross betting revenue over the next 5 years. But with horse racing's negative 6% growth rate, it's the weakest revenue stream under the betting banner.
Horse racing has had to adjust significantly from the time that it was not the only means of betting or gambling, and we have to just try and ensure that from a Gold Circle perspective, we still have the ability to keep the sport of horse racing going. And it's through that we've needed to diversify our income streams, because we know we cannot rely on the income stream purely from the tote, which used to sustain horse racing, but certainly it doesn't anymore. We have a fixed odds betting operator as well, Track and Ball, which is KZN based. We've got 7 stores, we're looking at expanding that. We also have the Greyville Convention Centre, which utilises the space that's available at Greyville Racecourse. It's very good business for us, and it's through those kind of efforts that we need to ensure that we can move away from the dependency on the tote and still keep horse racing going.
What kind of leadership or management style is required to operate effectively in the current environment?
Flexibility. I think we've got to be quick thinking and quick reacting. Quick reacting is not always that easy to do in a very old industry that's kind of set in its ways and has a lot of people set in its ways. But there's no question that the horse racing now, and I would say in the next 5 years, needs a very different style of leadership that can adapt to the challenges that it's faced with and can see opportunity in things that 30, 40 years ago nobody would have considered doing. I mean, even if we took, well, we did have Clarewood or Greyville, the fact that we rent out part of Greyville, 40 years ago, if you said we needed to do that, people would have said, are you crazy? But now we can. You know.
Along with the need for creative thinking and diversification, PricewaterhouseCoopers believe that companies need to capture value amid shifting consumer preferences and business models disruption. To do this, they need to focus on an increasing prominent source of competitive advantage, the user experience. This means an increasing need to harness data and technology to attract, retain and engage users and convert them into devoted fans. Australian champion jockey Hugh Bowman, better known as Winx's regular race rider, was crowned champion jockey of the world after his win on Cheval Grand in the Japan Cup a week ago. Trained by Yasuo Tomomichi, last year's third-placed Cheval Grand came out of the pack to run down defending champion Kitasan Black and hold off a late challenge from Ray de Oro, who grabbed second. Kitasan Black had tried to lead all the way but had to settle for third. Caulfield Cup winner Boomtime finished in a dead heat for 12th in the 17-horse field after being in the first half dozen early. The Japan Cup win sealed the world title for Bowman, with his closest rival, Ryan Moore, back in 5th position on Idaho. The win was Bowman's 16th Grade 1 victory in 2017. This to go with his 4th Sydney's Jockeys Premiership and his great association with Winx, who delivered 6 Grade 1s just this year, including a 3rd consecutive Cox Plate. It's amazing stuff. On that winning note, it's a wrap for this edition of Racing News. Catch us again in 2 weeks' time on Sunday the 17th, when we celebrate the top achievers from the South African Jockey Academy. See you then.